All right, let's get into Friday feedback. You can always email info@davidpakman.com. We will feature comments on our Substack, comments on YouTube, comments on TikTok, Spotify. You never know, but you can always email info@davidpakman.com. Dalak on our subreddit wrote, Trump will start a war because he thinks it will boost the economy he's ruining with his tariff war. I think war hawks in Trump's circle are feeding him the idea that starting a war with Iran will boost the economy and in turn improve his approval rating. Why is he so pro-war now without solid evidence? Iran has near-term nuclear capabilities. There has to be something in it. You know, here's the thing. On the one hand, the idea of a war to unite and rally behind the president is not a crazy idea. It's not a foreign idea. It's not an unusual idea. At the same time, I don't know that early public opinion about the Iran engagement suggests that it really would boost public opinion. And so even if you believe that a war with Iran would help the economy, which I think is a question mark, I'll come back to in a moment, even if you believe a war with Iran would help the economy, the American people a couple of weeks ago seemed so definitively against such an engagement that it might counteract whatever benefit Trump thinks he might draw economically. Now, on the question of would a war with Iran help the economy, here's the thing. There's often this idea that when you go to war, if you're the United States, because you have this big military industry, it's great for all of the contractors, the Raytheons and Northrop Grumman and all these companies. But it also generates significant economic instability, stock market instability. It can lead to shortages or price spikes in related or affected goods, oil being one that comes to mind in the context of Iran. So even the case that that would boost the economy is less salient or clear to me. It wouldn't be unprecedented to start a war for reasons other than just we need to go to war. But I do think it's relevant to consider all of the ways in which it might not go so well. And then it becomes less clear that that's something that Donald Trump would necessarily do. I think if Trump wanted to start a war for some reason other than this war really makes sense, it would be just as a distraction, not because it would boost the economy or whatever the case may be. All right, Justin wrote, crazy how you sound like this is the wrong your, of course. Crazy how you sound like you're betting against the U.S. and rooting for any news you can spin to bad for this country. You know, this is sort of like the quintessential patriotism as a cudgel critique. If I point out that the government is screwing some stuff up and that the orange guy in charge doesn't have your best interests in mind, I must hate the country and be betting against it and hoping that it fails. But I see this as totally backwards. When I point out bad policy, that's not un-American. It's pro-American. It's, hey, you know what? I'm not okay with things that are bad for the average American. The opposite would be covering it up, right? Allowing unchecked executive overreach, not highlighting errors and failures. So here's the deal. I root for the U.S. to live up to its ideals and what's in the law and due process and what the founders intended. Okay? When you say I'm betting against the United States, you're assuming that criticism is disloyalty. And I see that as a completely false trade-off. You can say the U.S. has done good things, and also here's some stuff that's not good. And here are the people who are doing it. It's hard to think of a more pro-America thing than that. Rooting against America. Give me a break, dude. All right. This is a good one. Gilgorn71 on Reddit jokingly asked, why hasn't David covered the Ace Bailey situation with the Utah Jazz? The silence is deafening. Star forward Ace Bailey from Rutgers hasn't reported to the Jazz. Okay, this is about basketball. All right. This is a joke. If you don't understand the joke, why would I be talking about NBA and college basketball stuff? The joke is that it's very popular to go on the David Pakman Show subreddit. It's very common, and see posts about, why haven't I weighed in on this? Why haven't I weighed in on that? Why haven't I taken a position on X, Y, Z? And as I've explained many times before, the show is just what I feel like talking about. That's all it is. You know, I don't have layers of editors telling me what to do. I don't have executives saying what the show needs to be. It's just what I feel like talking about. And if you don't like what I feel like talking about, you can go to a show where you do like what they feel like talking about, or what they are told to talk about by executives or editors. But I love the joke. The idea is, this person wants me talking about Ace Bailey, and I'm not talking about it. How dare I? Very often, a better use of time is, instead of making a post on my subreddit, it's just going and finding someone talking about the thing you want to hear about. All right, guys, please. Okay. Corwin Kratzman wrote on Spotify, listening to Elizabeth Warren, it clicked. What is wrong with Democrat versus Republican messaging? All the things she said are great, but what's the overall saying, the big idea? I don't know. She had a bullet point list. Republicans don't do lists. Make America great again. They've used it a bunch of times. Build the wall. Each of these are big ideas that excite people. I think that's part of why the No Kings protests were successful. 2 words, meaning end corruption, wealth inequality, and money in politics. This is an analysis not unlike the one that I have made for a long time. You know, Democrats often over-index on details. Let's publish a white paper and put in place a 5-step plan, read from bullet points, and then you lose people in minutes. And then Republicans come in with this vague but emotional and repeatable, make America great again, build the wall. This is why populist slogans stick. They appeal to feelings. Now, that's a good and a bad in a way, because you can make emotionally salient talking points stick, but they don't really lead to follow through. And that's a problem with the populist rhetoric. They don't necessarily point to a particular policy. So I do think there is a lesson here from Corwin, which is, for the left to compete, we need simple frames and big ideas that are emotionally resonant. Break down complex proposals into memorable mantras: end corruption, healthcare for all, whatever, right? Repeat it relentlessly. Policy depth does matter, but if you don't have like a clear, unifying narrative, you're just not going to cut through the noise. And Republicans absolutely understand that. Jim Cook wrote on Spotify, hey, David, why don't you point out that if old establishment Democrats didn't move aside, we wouldn't have empty seats and we could block this thing? I suspect you are with the establishment purely for ego, relevancy, and access. What do you actually stand for? So if I'm honest, I don't know what Jim's talking about. Why don't I point out that if old establishment Democrats didn't move aside, we wouldn't have empty seats and could block this thing? I know it's about the big, beautiful bill, but I don't really know what Jim's talking about. But let me kind of give you my take to the extent that I understand this. What do I stand for? I stand for accountability, transparency, and policies that expand opportunity while protecting rights. That's what I stand for, okay? My core audience knows I've never been a Democrat. Often it's Democrats that are the better choice, and I'll vote for them when they are. I criticize Republicans when they overstep. I criticize Democrats when they underperform. My establishment bona fides amount to, I've been doing a show for 2 decades. If the fact that I've been doing a show for 2 decades and now have over 6.5 million followers across all platforms, if that grants me access, then that's why I've been granted access, because I've earned it based on doing this. It's not about placating power. Now, as far as the whole move aside thing, you've got to come to me and tell me about a specific person that you're talking about. There are procedures, there are rules, there's internal politics, there's primaries. If seats are empty, that can happen in different scenarios. As far as that goes, I don't really know what Jim's talking about, but I hope I've made clear kind of where I stand. Hieronymus wrote on Spotify, the reason corporate media is refusing to report on Trump's cognitive decline is because they are terrified he will either sue them to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars, just ask ABC and CBS, or he will sick his FCC on them to potentially revoke their broadcasting license. This is a very good comment. Hieronymus is tapping into a real fear. It's an authoritarian environment that causes this. Trump's legal threats and Trump's regulatory powers intimidate outlets into silence. And I believe there is validity there because Trump has targeted all sorts of networks and publishers. And if they start going after Trump and saying, we need answers about the cognitive decline, they will probably get targeted too. Now, the bigger story is, why are outlets self-censoring? Is it just that fear? Part of it is a risk assessment. Maybe we underreport on it instead of facing $1 billion lawsuit. At the same time, if you believe that serious reporting about that issue could diminish Trump's power and make it harder for him to manufacture consent around, for example, suing media outlets, then you would be well positioned to do it and say, hey, I might actually be protecting myself by covering such a story. Gogol Devon said, how do I get through to my MAGA family members? My father-in-law is under the impression that the bill only kicks immigrants off of Medicaid, illegal immigrants off of Medicaid. He refuses to accept that he may be wrong. I'm afraid he's beyond help, but what would you do? Well, here's the thing. It's heartbreaking, but it's familiar. Your father-in-law may be beyond help. It's possible. Not everybody is savable. He may be trapped in an echo chamber where facts and reality, bend to deeply held beliefs. You cannot force someone to see the truth if they've already decided they don't care. So if you go and show your father-in-law charts, I just don't think it's going to make a difference. Now, what you can do is maybe to shift from, here are the facts, I'm going to beat you over the head with them, to tell me why you believe this. Use a genuine curiosity, sort of wrapped up with a Socratic method of questioning. Create a conversation. Why do you believe this? Who did you hear that from? Most people agree no one wants fraud. Most people agree seniors deserve health care. Frame these conversations around areas where there is agreement, and then use the questions. How did you learn that? Where did you hear that? All right. Shay wrote in and said, David, no joke, but you should seriously leave. Why even bother to find out if ICE or DHS target you? Do you really want to take a chance on going to El Salvador or somewhere else? You have a family and a child. I wouldn't even entertain the possibility of this happening. They are literally building the camps and literally telling you guys it's going to happen. I wouldn't chance it. Leave while you freely still can. Your family is more important than the risk. Much love. What do you think? I'm a citizen here, naturalized, yes, but I am a citizen. Do you believe that I am in an imminently risky situation to the degree that Shay is pointing out? Let me know by emailing info@davidpakman.com. And of course, leave a comment on the Substack, substack.davidpakman.com. We've got a great bonus show for you today. Sign up at joinpakman.com to get yourself a membership or to gift a membership to one of the 3,000 people currently waiting for a gift membership. If you would like a free membership, go to davidpakman.com/free membership. Register and you will get memberships for free in the order that you register. And finally, remember to get on my Substack, substack.davidpakman.com. We'll see you on the bonus show. Have a great weekend. These days, sadly, it's less a question of if your personal information will be leaked. It's more a question of when will it happen. And this is why I use Aura. Our sponsor, Aura, monitors the dark web, your financial accounts, your credit, and will let you know with real-time alerts if any of your personal information has been exposed or if someone tries to use it to steal your identity. Could be your social, could be bank logins, your credit file. Aura keeps an eye on all of it 24/7 so you're not blindsided by fraud. It's like having a digital bodyguard with Aura that never sleeps, scanning for threats, able to warn you before real damage is done. Aura also includes award-winning antivirus software to protect your devices from malware, phishing, and ransomware. And Aura also gives you a secure password manager, US-based support that's always available, and up to $5 million in identity theft insurance if the worst were to happen. One app does the work of several. And for me, it's worth it for the peace of mind, for my family, and for myself. You can try Aura for free for 14 days at aura.com/Pakman. The link is in the description.